Yo man peps, it's non-stop gaming action bringing that explosive urban gameplay, bro.
Yo, what's good, peeps? Well, it's time for an urban gameplay review, and as I haven't actually done a review for quite some time on the channel, I thought I'd bring it back with a banger review, or at least give my thoughts on Watch Dogs 2. Watch Dogs 2, as I'm sure you can imagine, is a sequel to the original Watch Dog, a game where you played a vigilante hacker who can almost hack every single electronic device within a 10-mile radius. Now, when Watch Dogs originally came out, it was a title that was memorable, but not for the right reasons, especially so when it came to the launch of the game. Ubisoft, however, have demonstrated that they believe the franchise can be improved and followed that up with Watch Dogs 2, a game that fixed a lot of problems when in comparison to the previous iteration. Now, before I dive into the review, I'm going to just drop a quick disclaimer. I haven't actually finished the game as of yet, but I have put enough hours in to let you guys know whether the game is worth buying or staying well clear of. So make sure you keep it locked as we get into this Watch Dogs 2 review.
Story.
Welcome to Dedsec.
Yo, in terms of the story, this has always been a major element of Watch Dogs, and once again it has been improved to some degree when you compare it to the original outing. It has a very young rebellion vibe going on, as the team of hackers that you're working with are all very much anti-establishment, which they have a pretty fair reason to be. I won't delve too much into the story because I don't want to give too much away, but it has been vastly improved down to the fact that the characters this time around have some humor to them and definitely a great personality. Just because a lot of them are young and rebellious doesn't necessarily mean that he can't have a bit of a laugh during it all. All in all, I do feel that the story is pretty decent and to some degree engaging, and is an overall compliment to the entire game experience.
Gameplay.
Moving into the gameplay, now for those who don't quite know what the genre of Watch Dogs 2 actually is, I'll fix that by mentioning the fact that the game is a third-person shooter open world sandbox game. Just like the story element of Watch Dogs 2, when compared to the previous game, the general gameplay of the title has been improved by a fair amount. Mainly the gunplay has seen the biggest overall improvement, and it's one that surely was needed from the first entry. When it came to firing in the first game, it felt stale and uninteresting at times, but in the sequel the developers have managed to improve it marginally, and at times you'll be forced to pull your gun out on someone, which is definitely more satisfying when you do it in Watch Dogs 2. As much as the gunplay might be more satisfying, I do personally prefer it to be a little bit more stealthier as a means to tackle enemies using various hacking abilities or gadgets, as let's face it, that is pretty much the purpose of the game. But overall, I do really enjoy how the gameplay is kind of put together, and even some of the game mechanics.
Positives.
Moving into the positives, and definitely easily one of the biggest positives from the previous game is the new location of San Francisco. There's nothing wrong with the previous location of Chicago, but the way it was portrayed was kind of dull and inspiring at times, where San Francisco is packed with bright and vibrant colors, along with NPCs that actually look like they belong in the area. These big visual improvements to the city make it look a lot more interesting to run around in, and it breathes a fair amount of extra life into the city to simulate what it would truly be like in that setting. Another big improvement for me this time around definitely has to be the character. Aiden from the first game was a serious vigilante, stopping at nothing to get revenge, but apparently that came with a lack of any real personality. Due to this character design, it quickly stopped any sort of charm being implemented into the character and created a more lackluster story, in a story that wasn't actually all that interesting in the first place. Thankfully, this time around, the new main protagonist of Marcus is brimming with personality and charm, and creates a character you look forward to spending the remainder of the game with. Coming along with this new protagonist is the occasional break from a serious story that comes in terms of him, which quickly becomes a nice change of things if you're being focused on the story for quite some time, which is nice to know that the closer you come to taking on the establishment, you can still take a break from time to time and take a seat in a corner with your laptop and bug some people with your electronic toys and gadgets.
Negatives.
Moving into the negatives now, with the amount of hours that I've put in, surprisingly I haven't actually found much deal breakers as of yet whilst playing this game, but there are a couple of niggly bits that I need to mention. Somehow though, even though with 2 years to develop for the sequel of Watch Dogs, Ubisoft managed to do little to nothing to improve the driving inside the game.
Oh man, this car is something else.
Yeah, well, kudos to Galilee for getting the studio to pay for this.
Now maybe it's just down to my personal poor driving skills in the game, but I do feel it's similar to how it was the last time out. Driving around in Watch Dogs 2 is closer to a box with wheels and a steering wheel than it is to driving an actual car to some degree. The lack of control and handling definitely puts a damper on the whole experience of hopping into a car and driving down a high street at full blast, because at some point your moving box might just sloppily handle into a nearby wall. To cut the long story short, for me personally, it's just boring to drive around in the game. It makes me do my very best to avoid it as much as possible. A-less obviously is quite difficult to catch a super sports car while you're on foot. I personally would say driving around on a motorbike is much more enjoyable for me than a car in this game. At the time of doing this review, obviously the game is still kind of new, and with that comes obviously the usual of bugs and glitches that shouldn't be in the game. Thankfully there aren't any game breaking bugs, but at the time you're bound to find a bug that can really restrict your enjoyment of the game, especially so when textures crop up after a little while. The final one of the quote-unquote negatives in Watch Dogs 2 is the removal of the exotic and X-rated female NPC. If you guys follow my channel, then you would have heard that Ubisoft will be removing the X-rated NPC, which was discovered by a gamer recently. Now, whilst we may have never actually have seen this NPC, it does make you think that you do expect to see something that justifies the 18 game rating title for this game. But yeah, again, this is by no means a reason not to buy the game, as this is just definitely a minor part, but was still a little strange to be censoring an 18 rated game from my perspective.
Final verdict.
Yo, whose place am I in?
I guess we move into the business end of the review, and it's definitely my time to give my opinion on whether it's worth buying Watch Dogs 2 or staying well clear of. Well, first things first, overall Watch Dogs 2 is a sequel to an overhyped game that didn't do that well, yet managed to make up for almost all its flaws with a few niggly issues here and there. The main improvements definitely come down to the new protagonist, the new city, and the improved gunplay. These improvements point to a franchise that could quickly become a staple in today's industry, providing that they finally managed to fix the incredibly boring driving mechanics that really should have been fixed in the first game. I feel that this game is a really solid game, and I really love how colourful and bright it looks. It definitely has an atmospheric vibe around it. It reminds me a little of when I first played Sunset Overdrive to some degree, where you have that feel-good factor of playing the game. If you enjoyed the first Watch Dogs or even thought the first one needed improvement, then I would say that this game is definitely worth checking out if you get the opportunity for, because so far from what I've played of the game, it's thoroughly enjoyable. Anyway, peeps, thanks for sitting through this review for Watch Dogs 2. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, whether you've purchased the game yet or whether you're still holding out to see what some of the reviews say. Don't forget to smash the like button if you enjoyed the video, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. And until next urban gameplay video, we definitely say peace out, peeps.
Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for more cool urban gameplay videos.